Okay, so what did we think? Did we all finish?
Yes.
Affirmative.
Yes.
What did we think?
Well, a lot happened in the end.
Mhm. See, I knew there was a death coming. We just didn't say the right one.
That's what I was going to say. We predicted the wrong person.
Yeah, that is sad.
I did feel saddened with that. I felt like it was very angsty because of the bar fight that they had and how he's trying to help his friend, but then it like took Mitch's death for whatever his face is to like finally get the memo, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. What was his name? Oh, Taylor. Yeah, so that was really sad.
Yeah, the whole what happened to him as a kid, that is like super traumatizing.
Big time.
Like, I would probably blame myself too. It's not like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not like they were all in the fire and just his dad didn't get out. It's like,
I was reading or hearing something on a TV show where kids at that age, like they're so egocentric that when stuff happens, they can't separate it from themselves and they think like they caused it, even though like an adult would know, you know, you couldn't have controlled it. I think I heard it on Criminal Minds, but it makes sense because it's just like so real and they're just can't really think beyond themselves and see the bigger picture because they're not there like, you know, developmentally yet. So they just attribute it to themselves, which I think is what happened with Taylor, which is sad.
yeah, and like how he saw his dad like on fire. Oh my God.
It's rough.
Like a brutal picture.
Yeah, I think we started off with, what part was it? It was still mostly just like the little breakup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And throughout that whole thing, I'm just like, I don't know. I wasn't really liking Taylor and I wasn't really liking Denise. And I was like, okay, we're not going to get more about the child. It's going to be Taylor this, Taylor that, and his trauma. And then I think I was being more like sympathizing with him when he went into that whole dad story. But before that, I was like, really? You had to have your friend die? Like, come on, like, stop being so, I don't know, selfish. Is that selfish? I don't know. I'm just like, knock out of it, you know? But once again, I don't have that trauma, and I guess it all, you know,
it's hard because it's like a trauma response. Yeah, it's a trauma response for sure, but it's just like kind of like what still happens now. I think that like men feel like they can't ask for help or talk about what happened, and so they keep it bottled inside to, you know, their own detriment and to the detriment of those around them as well. Hey, Crystal.
Hello, Crystal. See what else did I put?
And then his whole like how he was getting all close with Melissa, or like, I don't know.
That was weird.
Not really, just doing her yard work. But
Yeah.
I think I've seen another movie where like then the friend falls in love with the wife. I was like, oh God, is he gonna fall in love with
thought about
this
that, but I didn't think about it romantically.
Yeah, it wasn't. But I was like, is that gonna progress to something?
Yeah.
And then
That
she's
would've
like,
been horrible.
I'm moving.
Oh, that would have not. Yeah, no.
That'd be weird because like he would be just jumping around to all these different women.
I know.
I have some book club questions at the end of my Kindle version too, if you guys want me to read any of those.
Ooh, I had one quote that I wrote. You know how the mom kept saying, I didn't teach you how wonderful it is to love someone and have them love you back. And then he also kept saying, you are alone because you want to. With the first quote, where he's like, I didn't teach, or she was like, I didn't teach her how wonderful it is to love someone. It just brought me, or I got to thinking that, like, if they don't teach you how to love or communicate love, does that mean, like, obviously you don't, like, do you learn that, or do you just kind of have that ability? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I've had this conversation with my sister. My parents aren't very like lovey-dovey, and I've seen other parents or like other families that they are, and I feel like I can't communicate love like some of my friends or understand it like them. So it kind of brought me into that where, you know, the mom's like, well, it was on me. I didn't teach you to accept love and know how to love. And I was like, do you guys think that's how it works? Or do you like, obviously your environment helps you, but do you think it has to be taught? I know that was deep.
A good question. I feel
I
like
feel like
oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Katie.
Go. Well, I feel like my parents are similar. They weren't like fair. I mean, they show their love. I know they loved us, but they weren't like, you know, kissing us all the time and hugging us all the time, or even like saying I love you all the time. It was more like, I guess if you think about like love languages, it was more like acts of service than it was like words of affirmation or physical touch. But like my like other people in my life are like more touchy feely or more words of, and I just kind of like adapt or try to, but like my being, I'm not like I'm gonna come up and hug you, as I think you guys know.
Yeah, same. And I feel like this is why I'm like, I feel we are all kind of the same. Not everyone, but like I know Karina, you're not very touchy like that. And I know, like, I've hung out with you guys, so I know that we're not like that. But I have other friends that are like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could be like that, but you know, like it just doesn't come natural.
Yeah, different situations I've been in, I've come across different people who are like that, and they're just like, I'm a hugger and I'm gonna hug you, and I'm just like, you know, and so I have to kind of like you guys said, adapt. So I don't always like it, but I've gotten a lot better at it because I think I also didn't grow up with like a lot of physical like touch or hugs that way. So I'm not used to it, and it doesn't like, I feel like sometimes I don't really need it, although I'm sure I do. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, like, you know, a pat on the back or something, or, you know, but then people will be like, what, we've known each other this long and you don't want to give me a hug? And I'm like, it's not that. I'm just like, do we really need to? But with like all of my what I consider like my closer circle of friends, which is, you know, you guys, I feel like I would go for the hug just because I didn't miss you guys, and I feel like it's coming naturally, rather than some people I don't know as well, and they're just like coming at me with this big bear hug, and I'm just like, no, please do not.
Yeah, and I think you just like saw how it sounds like at least year after his dad passed, like his mom was really affected by it. So I think he just saw how hard it was to like have love and lose it. And then his mom like never found love again, so it never like gave him that impression that you can lose love and find it again, or like be okay, because she's always kind of distraught.
It's a similar theme to Ugly Love, which I just read this week by Colleen Hoover. But what you said really also reminds me of like Bridgerton, where the guy, you know, felt like he could not allow himself to have love, but really like he just, you know, needed to resolve the guilt kind of his dad, and, you know, move on to eventually hopefully get love.
Yeah.
It's true. I feel like there's a lot of books and stories or movies or shows where they do that, where they're like kind of scared to fall in love or be in love with someone because they know in the end they're going to end up either hurting them if something happens to themselves, or they're going to end up hurt because something could happen to their loved one. That's a good point.
I feel like it's a common theme, and I wonder if in media we see this more with boys, just because of like, you know, the archetype that guys have to be protectors or providers. And I wonder like how the story might have changed if the roles between Denise and Taylor were reversed.
Did you guys have the author's note at the end?
Oh no.
No?
Or did I?
Was it the author? I think it was the
Yeah.
author's note. Did you? Did you guys read
I
it?
didn't
If
read
you
it.
had it, did you read it?
I don't think I have it online.
No.
I just have the reading
Why?
group guide.
That was
Is
intense.
it?
So, oh, you don't have it either, Crystal?
No, I do, but I didn't read it.
Oh, so Nicholas Sparks said that this is his most like personal novel to date because Kyle is like his son.
Oh
So
wow.
Denise is Nicholas Sparks. Like he strapped his kid to a chair and did the whole Apple thing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. You were wondering if he even did research
Yeah.
before.
And
Oh
in my
gosh.
head, I was like, this sounds insane. Like, how can a mother do that? It's coming from a dad's perspective. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, the dad, you know, but it's a male. He's being so mean. I don't know. But that just took me on a different like point of view of
Okay.
Nicholas. And I'm like, my sir. You're sad.
Thanks.
Well,
But-
interesting. Do you think men are just kind of less sensitive? Because you're like, oh, you see, because you just commented saying like a woman wouldn't do that, but what it like because you're saying now it's from a man's perspective, you can kind of see where it connects.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
don't,
it's because men are a little less sensitive?
even though
Or
I
does
think
it
they
depend
don't
on the
understand.
man?
Go ahead, Katie.
I think they don't understand sometimes why, especially students or kids with special needs, why they just won't like behave or have the abilities that a quote unquote what they think a normal child would. So they do like extreme things maybe on or methods to help them or they think is helping them. And it also could just be like not looking into the correct methods, like if he saw it somewhere or like if that's how his parents maybe tried to help him but just to an extreme. I don't know.
I feel like Nicholas Sparks, you know, since he's already a famous author, though, he would be able to have resources to like hire people or specialists. So that's the only thing that kind of makes me like doubt. Like, I mean, I know he did it, but like I wonder, like, why? You know, did he not want to tell anybody that his son was going through this, and he tried to figure it out however he could, or was he in denial, kind of like what you were saying?
So he said that this was all happening in 1996 when he had released The Notebook. So he had just published that and he was super busy and he already had another child, so this is his second kid. But I mean he was super stressed. The mom was the one that was doing pretty much everything. So in that side I can see Denise, but like the whole strapping the kid and saying the apple for hours and doing all that stuff, that was him. And I don't know, like they were having a rocky marriage, he was saying. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so personal to him and I was not a big fan. And I was like, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, same. Well, maybe he wasn't as wealthy then. I mean, I'm imagining he's wealthy because he's a famous author, but
Yeah,
that probably wasn't the case back then.
oh, and his dad also died in 1996.
Oh, that's tough.
He took parts that were happening to him and kind of like created the story behind it.
Yeah,
that's kind of neat. That kind of puts a little, like, I don't know, it makes the book seem a little more
meaningful.
like Colleen, how she did It Ends With Us.
I'm surprised you guys rated it so low because Cody, I saw your Goodreads. I cried when Mitch died.
Really?
I mean, I'm on my period, so I'm a little sensitive, but I was straight bawling. Because remember how we had that conversation? I was like, oh, sometimes you just cry in a book because like you're just emotional during that. I was sitting on my couch and I was like,
I feel like, yeah, I gave it a 3, but in my mind it was more like a 3.5. But I feel like when I read multiple books from the same authors, I have to kind of like think about them side by side. And there's been other Nicholas Sparks books that I like
compared to the other,
yeah. So that's why I ended up.
I definitely think The Guardian was better of the ones I've read of his so far. I mean, I didn't read The Notebook or, A Walk to Remember or anything
Mhm.
like that, like one of those famous ones.
The whole fire like was kind of confusing to me because it was just kind of going too fast, and I was confused because there's a body, and
There-
it seems like one body he was able to throw out the window, but
Mhm.
the Mitch's body, I think he wasn't able to get,
Mhm.
and then he wasn't able to rescue the child, I don't think. So we don't even know who got to the child.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
we didn't even know it was Mitch until like Denise said, sorry about Mitch. So.
That was a tough way to find out for me. I'm just like, it seems like it's kind of like she said it offhand because of his mood. But then I was like, wait, this is the way the reader finds out. Oh my gosh. That made it a little more shocking, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't cry, but I was like,
No.
I was sad that their last like little like get together was literally them fighting. And then this happens, and when they said there was one body, I was like, you better not be him. Because if it's him, that's sad. Like, I feel like it kind of goes back to, how they say don't go to sleep with mad or something, with
Yeah. 'cause
mad
they
with
had
someone
just
you
argued.
love, something like
Mhm.
that. Because you just never know. And in this situation, obviously, he didn't know until, what, 2 days later or a few days later? Or was it the night of? I can't remember.
I think it was the night of, but like he didn't say it in the book because he was already kind of like zombied.
Yeah. It was
But
tough.
I just realized because I just finished reading the epilogue, the cover is their honeymoon.
Oh.
Mm.
I was
I
wondering
don't know if you
where
guys
that
read
came
it.
from.
Yeah, because it says that they're like on a little bed and breakfast, and they took a walk by the beach. And she
Oh.
says that she's standing behind. No, Taylor's standing behind her, his arm around her waist, and he simply leans her head back, feeling warm and safe as a new day unfolded. Or I guess he has his own on the shoulder, but same thing.
There's also a part where, here, let me see if I can find it. I think Judy was like, oh, she's perfect for you. And I was like, in what way? Like, I don't know. I feel like there wasn't a lot of connection between them besides, like, he already dated every other girl in that little small town.
It's the
And
only
then
option.
he got along with the kid. So,
I think that was kind of it. Like, she kind of went
right?
off of that, like, oh, they clicked. Yeah.
Their-
I don't think
their
that was
dads both
enough
died,
to marry
too.
him.
No.
But I can see where it's like, oh, that it attracted her to him.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
if he wasn't that good looking, it's like she kind of settled.
yeah. I don't
Because
know.
even then, like when he came to apologize, like she was just like, like he's just gonna hurt us again.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Kyle said, "I love you," that she's just like bawling, and he wasn't like it was all the kid. It was the kid.
That was too perfect. I totally thought he would have like coached Kyle to say that or something.
For that, I feel like I would have wanted to like it, but I didn't. It's like, oh my gosh, he's gonna say I love you. And I'm just like, of course.
That's too on the nose.
The one thing that she wanted, I don't
Well,
know.
I feel like did he what's his name?
Taylor?
Taylor teach him that because
I
they were
think so.
together,
I
and
think
he's
so.
acting like he was shocked, like he did not teach him that. So
No, I think he did.
I think he did too.
But if
yeah,
I feel like I would have loved it if I had felt connected with Denise and Taylor, but I didn't. So I was just like, oh, okay. I guess. But no,
and
I
was that
think he
they were
did.
still fighting, or was that when he was? No, he was trying to get back with Denise then, or
Mm-hmm.
which like, can we talk about how he brought all the stuff for a pot roast and then like gives
Cook
it to
it.
goes
Gave
in
it
the
her
yard?
to do.
I'd be like, F you, can you order a pizza?
You go and do it.
Yeah, I thought that
Oh
was weird
my
too.
God. She was spending hours preparing that pot roast.
Yeah.
Also, what did you all think? And this is one of the questions. But what do you think about how he did not come to take Kyle to the baseball game and he was all disappointed on his birthday? Do you guys really think he forgot? And then why does he bring the present the next day?
That bitch didn't forget. He's fucked up because he was still in his own world. He's being petty as fuck. That's messed up. He hurt the kid. The kid was excited. It's like he doesn't understand. Like he just thinks he didn't show up. Like that's so like I'm surprised she still took him back after that.
Me
I
too.
mean,
Honestly,
yeah, and she did say like,
I was so mad.
you know, children get over it or whatever, and maybe Kyle didn't really, you know, like it affected him that night when it happened, but I feel like the next day he kind of recovered and stuff like that. But I didn't like that because there's no way he forgot. He knows, and like the fact that he knows that Kyle is not your average little
And it was
kid.
his birthday.
Yeah, and it was exactly, and he, I don't know, I didn't like that, and I do like how Denise acted after. She's like, no, you hurt him, so this is no. But then after for like another chance, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. I feel if he had at least called or sent a message like, hey, something happened, can't make it. That way you don't have to torture them by making them wait a long time. Like it might have been a little better, but I think it was definitely unforgivable.
Yeah.
He keeps ghosting her. You know, when something else happens in the future, the same thing's gonna happen. He's just gonna run away and ghost you.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I just feel like towards the end, she just got very flirty real quick. And I'm like, girl, what happened to like,
Yeah,
that? You know?
that did bother me. I think, I found it like just kind of weird that, and maybe she was settling like someone mentioned, but there's like she was so mad, and then because Kyle says I love you, and I'm like myself, I believe like Taylor coached him, like he knows what's gonna make her melt and be able to forgive him. Like that's taking advantage of the relationship you have with this child who adores you. And then after everything was like more hunky dory after that, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's a really good representation though of like, and it's kind of fucked up, but it's like because I see this at least in like I don't know. I see this a lot, like whether it's in movies or like even cartoons, where it's like when a woman sees like a Prince Charming or like a man, she's like, oh, like forgot about everything, and they're just like, he's the one.
I think she
But I
was,
mean, I get
yeah,
it. This
really.
book was written like a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think she
like
just really
something
loved,
like that was written now wouldn't fly.
yeah. I think she just loved him, and she didn't want to like get back with him really, but she couldn't help it.
Yeah,
The red flags.
there is that part where there's moments before they got together where they keep saying they keep thinking of each other. And I was like, okay, I guess, I get it. They truly do love each other and all that stuff, but I don't know. Like your poor child was hurt. Maybe he doesn't remember, but
We remember.
yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Hold on. When Taylor doesn't show up to drive Denise to work, she is not only hurt, but she also has to scramble to get to her job. Do you think she made a mistake by becoming dependent on Taylor? At what point in a relationship should a person become dependent on another, and to what degree? End question.
Oh yeah, that was like messed up because he was taking her every day and then didn't even tell her like I won't be there, and then acted like she was like using him when he was the one who would offer.
I agree.
I think it was also tough, and this is where I'm like, I mean, you're right, he didn't say he was gonna give her a ride, but I think he was still playing on that whole like, oh, I came back and I didn't tell you, and I'm trying to keep my distance thing. But I still think that I think they're both at fault. One, they just didn't communicate. and the whole week before,
Shouldn't
like
just assume.
she was already getting a ride. So why shouldn't she continue getting the ride when Taylor didn't even tell you he came, and he didn't even say, "Oh, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll give you a ride." I mean, Taylor should have done it because, come on, she doesn't have a car. But I don't know. They just lack of communication, I think. So I blame both.
Mhm.
Also agree.
Neutral. There was a second question to that. Something about.
Oh, yes. At what point in a relationship should a person become dependent on another, and to what degree?
Never.
Never.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I didn't want to say it.
You should never become dependent.
You should always maintain some independence.
That's how you get her. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Or like, I don't know, couldn't she have asked someone for just a loan to get a car? I mean, it took her just a few months to be able to buy it. Like, I'm sure she could have asked Taylor for a loan, or the diner.
I know, before she broke up with him, right?
Yeah.
I feel like to answer the question, kind of, I think it depends on the relationship and like the person that you're with. 'Cause I feel like some people are more dependable than others, and you might also depends on the relationship on how fast it moves. Because I've been in 2 different relationships. One, I feel like I would be asking them like a huge out of this world favor, and then the other one, I know like if I were to ask them something they would do something for me, they would do it, or they would do it without me asking. So I think it depends on how comfortable you are and even the partner that you have. But I would say like at least if you're like in a committed relationship and it's not like a situationship or something, like you have established your partners, and at least a few months in, you should be able to depend on them, because if you want to be a good partner, and if your partner's working towards the relationship too, they should, and a few months in, I guess, and if it's serious, you should be able to depend on the other person for like minor things. And then as things go on, like you don't ask for a kidney a few months in, but maybe in a few years.
It should be
hell
mutual
no.
too.
I'm keeping my kidneys.
Did you hear that, Alvaro? Just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but I agree. I mean, I agree with you, Katie. I just feel like at one, there's different levels, how you said, of dependency. There's some people that are very codependent, that
Yes.
it's like too serious, like they shouldn't, like they should be able to be, by themselves or whatever. And that's why I feel like I'm the strong independent woman that will like, no, I will never depend on someone. But that's also toxic, and I need to allow myself to depend on others, but obviously not for everything. So I think it has to be a balance. Obviously, I'm gonna say never ever, but I do have to like tone it down
Yeah.
at some point. Depends.
I identify with what you said, Judith, and I think like for me, like with some things I've seen in my different extended family or different like relationships that I've seen or grown up around, I feel like I was kind of like I was forced to learn like you should never depend on anybody. Like you should always be able to do it yourself, and that takes a bit of unpacking as well now as an adult to kind of be like, oh, it's okay, even at school or with friends, like it's okay to ask for help, or things like that. Definitely a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. What are you eating, Crystal?
Hummus and pita. I didn't have dinner. I just started getting hungry.
There was the part where after Mitch died, Taylor is refusing to eat any more than what is necessary. Do you think he was being too dramatic? like self sabotage. Like he's already sabotaging his relationships, but then after this, it's like, no, I don't deserve any pleasure, not even in my butt. Do you think he was being a bit dramatic with all that?
It's hard to say. I think he's definitely going through like a lot of intense grief, and probably because it was Mitch, I feel like there was a different layer of guilt, but he was also probably replaying the feelings that he has had, or the memory of like his dad dying, just because they both did die in a fire. So I wonder if that made it more intense than if it would have been someone else or a different like manner of death.
It almost like reopened the wound. They kind of made him reflect on like the loss and how it had affected him emotionally.
Yeah, I've been learning that when you recall a traumatic memory, your brain is like so good at imagining things that it cannot tell the difference between like what's real or what's not. So he could be like just re-traumatizing himself every time that he had one of those near-death experiences. And it kind of makes sense because there was a few points in the novel where, you know, he was in a dangerous situation, and then he's having nightmares after. He's a little bit different. Like his mind and body are like trying to process it and just protect him in whatever way he knows how. But with Mitch's death, I just feel like the situation was just multiplied and that much more intense because of who it was, and also just how he was so close to saving him. So he probably felt really bad because of that as well.
And it's so similar to his dad's death.
That was so sad.
Yeah.
Because like he sees his skin on fire, like his hair. Really sad.
Yeah. I don't think he's doing it intentionally, but it's like clearly you're self-sabotaging all your relationships because you're like, it's so great, and then all of a sudden we break up. And he's like, I don't know why. Like clearly it's you.
Yeah.
He probably needed some therapy, which like why didn't the mom put him in freaking therapy?
I think that's what made her so sad, because she's like later on she's like, I was a horrible mother. And I think she didn't realize like the trauma it had him, you know? Because she was like so like trying to just recover herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely thought the mom was going to have more involvement even towards the end, especially I was hoping, I guess, that she would have a hand in resolving the trauma like more than she did, even though they did have that conversation at the cemetery. I feel like I don't know, I just feel like Taylor needed a lot of help, and you know, it wasn't anyone's fault how he was feeling, but because of how strong the mom character came out in the beginning, I was just expecting her to have more involvement throughout.
Yeah, she just weakened out.
And you would think that you saw like, because it sounded like he repeated this in all his relationships. Do you think that that would raise a flag with her, like something going on? I should probably talk to him.
And there was a line when he was in the basement at Mitch's house and there was an interaction between Taylor and Denise, and it said like what they didn't know was that Judy had overheard the whole thing, and that's why I was like, oh, she's gonna step in and something's gonna happen. And I think that's what I was expecting at the end too. But I think that I think it was more Melissa really who was that strong and compassionate friend who, even though she was going through her own grief, she was able to like push Taylor to make a move to start resolving his own grief and trauma as well. Because she talked to the mom too, right? And she told her that he would be at the cemetery or something. Which leads into question 13. How significant are good friendships for the characters in the story, and what role do they have in changing Taylor?
Well, Melissa had a the impact, but I feel like Mitch was obviously a very important person but I mean, they didn't have any other friends.
Go ahead, Judith.
Yeah, that's why I think they had a huge role in Taylor, obviously now that he's grown up, but also like in general, because when Mitch was gone, that's when he's like, oh shoot, I really don't have anybody. Melissa's gonna leave with the children, and I thought I would at least have that. I have my mom, but it's like your mom. Not that your mom can't be your friend, but if it's only your mom, then you're really like, oh shoot, you know,
Mhm.
I'm alone. And then you go
Do
into
you think that's why he went back to Denise?
and that
Didn't want to be alone?
is why I'm like, is it this relationship out of convenience, or do you actually feel the way you feel? Because I mean, like I said, they said he dated all these girls, and then comes Denise, but then he only went back, and he's like, oh, I mean, yeah, the whole time I've been thinking about you, but it's also you're literally
Like she
looking
was
for
the
one
best out of the three.
Yeah. So they play a huge role, for sure. I think in general, all friends do.
Mhm.
I thought it was kind of funny how like the book started with Denise and like her story, and then it quickly just transitioned to being mostly about Tyler.
Like 40-60.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to know more about Denise and just get more like family background or learn more about what happened to her before even Kyle was born and you know like those early years. Because I feel like that was
Like how did she meet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like how did she meet her baby daddy?
Yeah, there's a lot of curiosities for me.
Yeah, my question was gonna be, why did Nicholas Sparks like decide to have Kyle, but like we kind of find out and the others know. So, because I was the whole time I'm like, we didn't get much after besides like the kid was the only one connecting with Taylor, and then you know Denise fell in love. But then after that, I'm like, what happened to the kid? You know, like, I was expecting more of Denise and the kid than Taylor.
What do you think of that? They had a kid together.
Hmm.
So
So at
Nicholas
the
Sparks' second kid.
Yeah, I think expected.
It was expected, yeah, for me.
where it says he'll look just like his father, and like my eyes had already gone to the bottom where it says Mitch, so my brain already knew they named the kid Mitch, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know this didn't happen, but what if it's Mitch? Mitch is
What if she had a kid?
I knew it wasn't. I mean, I knew it wasn't.
Oh yeah,
Isn't that kind of a funny name for a baby?
yeah,
Hey, Mitch. I
yeah,
feel like that's like a nickname for like Mitchell,
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah.
Michael, something.
yeah.
I also I think I thought it was like a really nice sentiment, but I just feel like everything about how it ended was like a little too perfect. And I know that's like Nicholas Sparks' style, but I don't know. I was having more issue with it than usual for this novel.
Even
Almost
when
like
she's
kind of
like,
cringing.
and she's like, we still go to the diner to eat. Like, please.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I never want to see that place again.
I know, like you still go to that dump.
Yeah.
So what is she, a stay-at-home now?
I think so.
It sounds like it.
Or maybe she's a writer. She took after Nicholas.
Mm. I wonder, like who Nicholas Sparks identifies with more. It must be Denise, like you guys were saying, but I wonder if there's like components of him in both Taylor and Denise, or who, and if not that, then who Taylor is modeled after, and why like firefighters as well. Like, did he just say like, oh, this will make the story dramatic, and I'm going to add it to my own like personal portions of this story, or was there another reason?
I mean, he's very dramatic. He has to have something. And I was like, what's a occupation that's like exciting, dangerous, and risky?
Mm-hmm. Firefighting.
And maybe if it got made into a movie, he was thinking like shirtless fireman, you know, like
Probably.
something that would bring in the women.
What would you guys rate it? I know Corina kind of already said hers.
Mine's a 3.5 for the reasons I kind of like already said. Just compared to other Nicholas Sparks books, I think I've had more of an emotional reaction, or I've liked them better. Ending was like a little too on the nose, and I feel like I wish the characters, especially Denise, were just developed a little more and we find out more about their past.
Darlene said 3.5 as well.
Mm.
Paola said 3.
I also gave it a 3.
Yeah.
I just think like romance, and I didn't like this couple.
Mm.
I mean, I think romance with Nicholas Sparks is what I meant to say. I didn't like the couple, and I don't know. I remember when I read it when I was 14. I didn't love it either. But I did like some of the dynamics are just it's different than other romances. It's more complicated, I guess.
Do you think you liked it more when you were 14 or now?
I think now 14 I really wanted steaminess, you know.
Yeah.
And it was slim picking.
Yeah, they didn't really get that here. She's like, we love.
We may love you. I also gave it a 3. When I first saw Corina, because I go on Goodreads and then I like see what else I want to read, and I saw
How you liked it.
Yeah, Corina put that she had already rated it, and I was like, no, it's a 3. I don't want to read it.
No one did left anymore.
I don't
We
know
talked about
if I went in with a bias then after, but I don't think so. I think I didn't really feel very connected since the beginning. It started good with so much action, but then it just kind of like, I don't know.
I did like the action scenes.
Yeah, in the beginning it was good. After that, the fire was okay. I mean, finding out that Mitch died and you're like, shoot, he was so close to saving him. That was kind of cool. Or not cool, but it got me more attracted to it. I was like, oh shoot, who is that? But then after, I'm just like, you're just struggling. You just need some therapy. Like, get some help, So, 3.
Go to a new town. You'll find someone new.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone you're more comfortable with.
Someone who has not dated all the girls in town. I feel like that would be an awkward dynamic, so I'm not gonna lie.
You
go to the supermarket.
Where we go.
Everyone's ex-girlfriends of your like spouse or significant other. That would be strange.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 5, but I gave it a 4 on Goodreads. Only because I did like how it there was parts where it was a little slow, but I mean at least for the most part it read well for me. But I mean I think it was a little predictable. So I was like, it was okay.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3.5. I kind of liked that it was like a comfortable book. Like, it wasn't necessarily a page turner, but it did like keep me interested enough to just like keep reading. Yeah, I thought the action scenes were good. The romance was more complex, not steamy. But it was pretty good, but I wouldn't like recommend it necessarily. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is so good. But it's like I did enjoy it, but it wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
I agree with Darlene. I wanted more romance. Like I just expected, because it's Nicholas Sparks. Like, oh, woo me. But no, I didn't get it.
Yeah, so Darlene said, because the action really died down for me, and also the romance wasn't like all sparks and cutesy as I thought it would be. More so their connection wasn't as strong, which I think we agreed.
Yeah.
I feel you, Julie. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to other people. Like if someone's like, oh my gosh, what book are you reading? Would you recommend it? No. If it's lying around in your grandma's house, then go ahead.
Yeah.
This, on the other hand, everyone is recommending.
Oh.
Have you already started?
No, it's just
Oh, you already have it broken up.
yeah. So I broke it up in 4, but the 4 aren't even. So I have 2 different potential stops just because it literally goes from like 100 pages to the next section is 120 and then 90 or something like that. So I'm going to test it out. We're going to do 100 and then we'll see if we're okay, depending how the action goes or not, you know?
If it's juicy.
So, first section, you read up to chapter 5. Don't read chapter 5, so stop at 5. Page 108, if we have the same book.
You said stop at chapter 5?
Yeah, so don't read it. So chapter 1 through 4. The font isn't that big, so I think it should be fine. We'll see though. But I'm excited, and I thought it was perfect because it's also red, white, and blue for 4th of July. Just for like
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But this one had all the votes. And I think I know Julie didn't. She told me she didn't vote.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Wednesday was a wrap. I don't know.
It's okay. There was.
I was even like, "Where's the email?" And then I like looked back. I'm like, "Oh, there it is."
I'm excited. This book's coming with me to Mexico, and I'm going to try to log on. I'll have a slight time difference too, but I usually stay up late when I go over there, so I think it'll be fine.
God, what time is it going to be when you're, because we're meet at like 8:30.
It's 2 hours later in Mexico.
10:30? Te vas a desvelar.
I mean, I
It's
don't
like, that's the whole vacation.
yeah, I don't really do too much when I'm over there. Like I just read a lot and I catch up on sleep and just hang out with my family, and then sometimes we do like a day trip here and there. So should be good. I can read it in the airport.
That's fun.
She looks kind of thick.
That is.
Yeah, it does look. It's I think 13 hours on the audiobook, which is kind of long.
Jeez.
It's
Or
418.
12.
It's thicker than I imagined.
Not bad.
It's thicker than a Snicker.
Sounds
Wanted to share that I finished my reading challenge already,
nice.
and I signed up Rico, so I'm just gonna read like another 5 books and fill it in under his name.
What's the
If there
challenge?
was an award, do you think you'd win? Like from most books read? I think.
I wish there was. I know one time when I was young, I asked my mom if she'd give me 25 cents for like every 100 pages I read one summer, and she had to shell out like a decent amount. This one, you just have to read 5 books, and if you turn it in, they enter you in a raffle for Santa Clara County Parks annual vehicle parking pass. So there's some parks around here that are nice, but you might have to pay. And so if you win the pass, then you don't have to pay.
Nice.
That's cool.
And at San Benito, they're raffling off like 5 Kindles if you complete the challenge. So I'm gonna sign up for that and see if I can win another Kindle too.
You're so good. I would just fake it and write down.
Well, it's okay. I read 4 books this week, or finished 4 books this week. So I'm like, all right, like I pretty much have 1 paper done. So.
Did you guys ever have to do that in elementary school where you would write down the books that you read, like say that you read for 30 minutes? I'd always lie.
I lied.
Yeah.
Lied. Yeah.
I would do that. I don't know if I did it or not, but like I would just lie now.
I lied, and eventually I realized, I'm like, you know what? These books are good. So it kind of rekindled or like resparked the whole like interest in reading.
Yeah.
Because I did it when we were younger, and then I kind of stopped. And then back in junior high is when we started it again. And I was like, oh.
That's kind of how I was. It's all started with Junie B. Jones.
I love Ginny B. Jones.
Or the Magic Tree House.
The Magic
I love
Tree
those.
House.
No, Goosebumps. Those are my fave.
Those are good
I
too.
love Goosebumps.
I read Ginny B. Jones and the Stupid Smelly Bus on Zoom last year to my students, and they were just like enthralled, and that's how I got them to stay until the very end of the meeting. Oh, if you log off. Sorry.
So cute.
That was nice.
I still kept a couple books that I read like in like I want to say like I think it was elementary school. Like what was it? Esperanza Rising.
Oh, that one's really good.
Yeah, like there's still a couple books that I kept. Mine's like in super bad shape because I read it, my mom read it, my sister, everybody read it. But I'm like, I'll never get rid of it.
I like to reread that one every few years. I really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
If I read it.
When I get back to school, I'll send you guys a video of my classroom library so you can see it. It has a lot of books in it.
Nice.
And then back to school night or open house, like I had the kids do a scavenger hunt and show their parents around the classroom. They had to show their parents the favorite part of the classroom. And they always want to check in with the teacher before they leave. So it's like a good conversation like starter, like, oh, what was your favorite part? And a lot of the kids said like, oh, the library.
Aw.
Yes.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me stop the recording. Chapter 1 through 4.